Alright, so in this video, I'm going to rank the top savings accounts on the market that have the best features and pay you the most interest, as well as the worst savings accounts to avoid at some pretty big name banks that pay you almost nothing. We're basically doing a tier list here of the most well-known bank accounts, and I've made a similar video like this in the past as well, but with savings accounts, their interest rates are always changing, so these are going to be my updated rankings here with the most accurate info as of the summer of 2025, starting with an account from the largest bank here in the US, which is JP Chase, who offers their Chase savings account. So this is going to be an account that a lot of people might be using right now because Chase calls this their most popular option for savings. However, there's two huge red flags here on their website because what you'll notice is that first of all, there's a monthly service fee on this account that you have to jump through some hoops to avoid. And then second of all, they don't actually tell you the interest they're paying you right away. Instead, they kind of hide the rate behind this link that says see interest rates. And if we go ahead and click on that, we're going to see that despite the brand behind this account, this is actually going to be one of the worst places to keep your savings if you're looking to beat inflation. And that's because they're currently paying only 0.01% APY on all balances. Now, to give you some context here, there's plenty of high yield savings accounts that we're going to talk about here in this video that are paying anywhere from around 3.6 to 4.2% APY at the time of filming this. And right now, rates in that range are what I would consider competitive. To put a dollar figure on those percentages, if you had $10,000 saved, Chase would only pay you $1 single of interest per year for that. But those other high yield accounts would pay up to around $360 to $420 per year. So that's what's really going to set apart the better savings accounts in the top A and S tiers for this video from the bad savings accounts like this one, which is going to go down into the bottom D tier. Now, Chase is more known for the credit cards anyway, so I like to stick to being more of a credit card customer with them. But speaking of that, let's move on next here to another credit card issuer with American Express, who does actually offer a good high yield savings product as well. So the Amex high yield savings account is currently paying 3.60% APY at the time of filming this, and they also have no fees or minimums. So that's going to make them one of the more competitive savings accounts on the market. Now, it's worth mentioning here at the beginning of this video that compared to last summer, most high yield savings rates like the one that's offered from this account are going to be down just a bit. So for example, a year ago, American Express was paying around 4.25% APY on this account, but now that's down to, again, 3.60% APY. I've seen countless people in the comment sections of older bank account videos complain about these drops and then just blame it on whatever bank they use for being greedy or something like that. But it's important to note that rate movements on these accounts are completely normal and they just kind of follow what's going on with other interest rates. Without getting too detailed, pretty much all banks that offer high yield savings accounts are paying less interest now than they were a year ago because the federal funds rate is slightly lower right now than it was last year. And hopefully we're actually going to see the Fed lower rates a bit more later on in 2025 and even more in 2026. So you could probably expect these savings accounts rates to continue trending downward as well. It's kind of like a trade-off though, because you might earn a bit less interest on your savings, but money should also become cheaper to borrow, which then makes doing stuff like buying a house much more affordable. So the point I want to make here is don't get caught up too much on the exact rate your savings account is paying you because these rates change over time. So just make sure that it's a good competitive rate and then try to look at it in the context of what's going on in the bigger picture. Now, back to the Amex high yield savings account. This one is super simple and definitely an example of an account that consistently pays a good competitive rate, but there's not really any other features or benefits that's going to put it into the top S tier. So for me, this one's going to go into the A tier as a solid option that you can't go wrong with. Also, as we move on to the next accounts here, it's good to mention that all the bank accounts in this video are going to be from actual banks that are FDIC insured, which is super important to have for the security of your money. And if you want to go ahead and learn more about any of these accounts, then we're going to leave links down below to all of them in the description. Now next here, let's move on to another popular banking name with Capital One and their 360 Performance Savings account. And this account is currently paying 3.60% APY at the time of filming this as well, which is great. And just like Amex, you've also got no fees or minimums here to worry about. You can also easily create multiple 360 savings accounts for different savings goals, which can be nice. However, some people might prefer to just have one savings account, which then can have different sub accounts or savings buckets. So we'll show you a couple of accounts later on in this video with those features as well. Another underrated thing that Capital One has going for them is that they offer physical branch locations in certain cities here in the US, like New York and Washington, DC. So that could be good if you think you want the best of both worlds with a competitive online savings account with the option to also have in-person banking if needed. Now, most people don't really need in-person banking when it comes to just using a high yield savings account because you can honestly just move money over from your checking account right on your phone. And actually part of the reason that most competitive savings accounts are able to pay higher rates right now compared to big names like Chase and a few others is just because they don't have to spend a lot of money on operating physical branch locations. So Capital One is a bit unique because they do offer some in-person banking along with Capital One cafes, which are another nice low-key way to have a few limited banking options as well. Now, normally I rank Capital One pretty high on these lists for bank accounts, But lately, Capital One has been in the news for their savings products because they recently agreed to pay $425 million to settle a lawsuit over these accounts. Basically, they gave their highest rates to new customers who signed up for their 360 Performance Savings account, while existing customers who had the older 360 accounts were only getting up to 0.3% APY. So now Capital One agreed to settle and pay customers the previous interest they would have otherwise received. So again, always make sure to check that you're getting a competitive interest rate on your savings account because you don't want to run into issues like this. So even though it's up to the consumer to shop around their banking business to get the best rates, I still think this wasn't a great look for Capital One. So instead of putting them into the A tier, they're going to go into the B tier for this video. But full disclosure here, I do use this 360 Performance Savings account for myself for some of my savings, and honestly, I've loved having it. Now, next here, I want to take a look at two savings accounts that come from the same exact bank, and both are pretty well known. So those are going to be Marcus from Goldman Sachs, and then the Apple Savings account, which also comes from Goldman at the moment. So Marcus currently pays 3.65% APY, which again makes it competitive with some of the other high yield accounts so far in this video. And this is going to be another super simple account that has no fees or minimums. Then for the Apple Savings account, this is also offering 3.65% APY with no fees or minimums. And when you go ahead and read the fine print at the bottom of Apple's website, like I said, you'll see that both the Apple Card and Apple Savings are provided by Goldman Sachs. Now, the Apple-Goldman partnership unfortunately has not gone too well because it's losing Goldman a lot of money. So eventually these Apple products are going to move to another bank, but we don't know exactly what that's going to look like just yet at the time of filming this video. Also, even though the Apple Savings account is something that a lot of people really seem to enjoy using because it's integrated really well with the Apple Card and it makes earning cash back and saving money super easy, the fact is you do actually need an Apple Card in order to get this Apple Savings account. And then in order to get an Apple Card, to get the most out of that card, you need an iPhone. So because not everyone has an iPhone and not everyone wants to open an Apple Card just to get this Apple Savings account, and because there's a lot of uncertainty about the future of Apple Savings, I'm going to put this one into the B tier. But then for the Marcus Savings account, which is open to everyone and it pays the same exact rate as the Apple account, there's really not that much to dislike here and it gets the job done. So this one's going to go into the A tier with some of those other similar accounts. Now next, I want to move on to my favorite bank account that I've used the most over the past few years, even after trying out many of the other accounts here in this video, and that is going to be SoFi with their checking and savings product. So when you open up a banking relationship with SoFi, they're going to give you both a checking and a savings account that work really well together. And currently the savings account offers a rate of up to 3.80% APY at the time of filming this. And then the checking account pays 0.50% APY, which honestly is pretty good for a checking account to even offer anything. However, in order to get that 3.80% rate on savings, you do have to either set up direct deposit from something like your paychecks, or if you receive qualifying deposits of $5,000 or more during a 30-day period, then that also works to trigger this higher savings interest rate. And I'll go ahead and put the full terms up on the screen right now if you want to pause and take a look. Now, SoFi checking and savings also has no fees or minimums, and they also allow new customers to earn a welcome bonus of up to $300 depending on the amount of direct deposits you receive in a certain time period after account opening. So if you receive deposits from something like your paycheck that totals $1,000 or greater during a 25-day period, but less than $5,000, that's going to qualify for a $50 bonus, but receiving $5,000 or more in direct deposits during that period is going to qualify for the $300 bonus. Again, I'll leave some links down below where you can learn more about this offer and also check out any of the other accounts mentioned in this video. And then one other feature that I also really like about SoFi's savings account is something called vaults. This allows me to set up different vaults or sub accounts within my savings account that I can use for specific goals like a travel fund, a wedding fund, or even a down payment towards a house. SoFi also just has a great app interface and tons of other features as well. So yeah, to me, SoFi has been by far my favorite bank account combination that my wife and I have been using for the past few years with both our checking and our savings account. And with all these features and great rates, I'm going to go ahead and put it into the S tier at the top of these rankings. I actually decided not to put any savings accounts into the top S tier when I made this ranking video last year, but I did get a lot of comments saying that I should really put some accounts into the S tier because that's kind of the point of these charts. And after thinking about it, I do agree with that. So let me know down below what you think of these updated rankings in this video so far, because I truly do value the feedback and it actually plays a big role in future content. Now, next here, let's go ahead and move on to another big name bank with Bank of America and their Advantage savings account. And unfortunately, when we check out what this account actually offers, there's really no advantage to using it. So this account has a $100 minimum opening deposit requirement and then an $8 monthly fee, which can be waived in a few ways, but still, why even have this fee in the first place? Now, the real disadvantage to using this Advantage savings account from Bank of America is that they only pay 0.01% APY on all balances as their standard rate. And even if you're a part of their Platinum platinum tier of the preferred rewards program, which requires at least $100,000 of assets with Bank of America, you're only going to be getting 0.04% APY on your savings, which is still virtually nothing. So again, a big name bank here with a large physical branch network may be good for certain other banking needs, but when it comes to keeping your savings here, you definitely want to avoid Bank of America because it's going to go into the bottom D tier with those super low rates. Next, let's move on to Barclays, who actually offers 2 online savings accounts that are both pretty good. However, one might be the better option because it does pay slightly more interest, so let me show you which one you might want to consider. Their online savings account currently pays 3.70% APY on all balances at the time of filming this, and it also has no fees or minimums, which is great news. But when you go ahead and look around online, Barclays also offers something called their tiered savings account with no fees or minimums that pays anywhere between 4.00% and 4.20% APY, depending on what your balance is. If you have a balance that's less than $250,000, then you're going to get 4.00% APY in their tiered savings account. And if you hold $250,000 or more, then you're going to qualify for that 4.20% APY rate. Now again, this account, just like all the others in this video, is FDIC insured, but that technically only covers you for up to $250,000 of deposits. So just keep that in mind here and do your own research on FDIC coverage if you're going to hold more than $250K in a savings account like this. But for most people who are going to have a balance under $250K anyway, earning 4.00% APY in this tiered savings account from Barclays is going to beat out earning 3.70% APY from their online savings account. So the link down below for Barclays is going to direct you to the tiered version if you're interested. And with his 2 offerings, Barclays is going to go into the A tier. Next, we've got CIT Bank, who also has 2 savings account options that you might want to look at depending on the amount you want to keep in savings. So first, there's going to be the Savings Connect account that's paying 4.00% APY. This account has no account opening or maintenance fees, but there is going to be a $100 minimum opening deposit requirement, which is fine. But if you plan on having a slightly larger amount saved up with CIT, then you might want to look into their Platinum Savings account instead. This account is paying 4.10% APY at the time of filming, which is just slightly more, but you do have to keep a balance of $5,000 or more in order to get that higher rate, or otherwise you're only going to get 0.25% APY. There's a $100 minimum opening deposit requirement here as well, which doesn't really matter quite as much if you're already considering using this account with a $5,000 minimum balance for the higher interest rate, but then there's going to be no other account opening or maintenance fees here as well, which is nice. So CIT Bank is going to go into the A tier as well as another solid choice, but again, like a lot of the other online banks that offer competitive rates, if they don't really have any other features, then that's pretty much what's keeping them out of the S tier. Next, keeping up with the trend of having 2 savings account options with one bank, let's move on to Wells Fargo. So first, they're going to offer the Way to Save account, but right off the bat here, we can see they do mention a $25 minimum opening deposit requirement, as well as a $5 monthly service fee. Now, again, here with this account, you could pretty easily avoid that fee by just following a few options like having a $300 minimum daily balance, but what you get in return for having a balance above that is only a 0.01% APY interest rate, so this is going to be an account that absolutely needs to be avoided. But then they also offer what they call their Platinum Savings account, which sounds better, but this one also only offers 0.01% APY plus another monthly service fee and an opening deposit requirement. Now, you technically can earn slightly higher rates if you also have a Premier checking account with Wells Fargo, which is also littered with fees, but those fees are still below what you can get with plenty of other high yield accounts in this video without worrying about fees at all. So again, another big name bank here is going to go into the D tier for their savings accounts because that's just not really their main business. All right, now next we've got Discover, who is typically known for their Discover It cashback credit card, but they've also got some really good online banking products, including an online savings account that's paying 3.60% APY at the time of filming this. As you can see, there's no monthly fees or minimum deposit requirements here. And one thing that people really seem to like with Discover is that their customer service is 100% US based and available 24/7. And the customer service experience is mostly positive when you go ahead and read about that on Reddit compared to most other banks. However, it is worth noting that Discover recently merged into Capital One officially a few weeks ago after Capital One acquired them. And even though Capital One has stated that they intend to keep the Discover brand running alongside their own brand, I'm sure there's going to be at least some changes down the road, so we'll see what happens here. Regardless though, right now Discover's online savings account is competitive and backed by a great brand. So like I've said with other accounts, even though there's no extra fees to really put them into the S tier, this is still going to be a great A tier option. Honestly, any of these S S, A, or B tier savings accounts are going to be a solid choice to have for your savings, so don't get too caught up in your decision. But next here, let's go ahead and go over a couple more S tier options that do offer some extra features along with a competitive rate that puts them into that tier. So next on our list is going to be Basque Bank, who has two savings account options that both can be excellent choices as well, including one option that actually earns American Airlines miles, which is pretty much unheard of from any other bank accounts. So the normal Basque Bank interest savings account earns 4.20% APY at the time of filming this, which definitely makes it one of the highest paying accounts in this video. And there's not going to be any tiers or other requirements needed here with this one in order to get that rate. Again, though, just like any other account in this video, the rates are going to vary over time, and we'll probably eventually see this get lowered at some point, but still with no other fees or minimum balance requirements, this is going to be a very solid choice. However, what makes Basque Bank really unique here is going to be their mileage savings account, which allows customers to earn 2 American Airlines Advantage miles for every $1 saved annually. And again, there's not going to be any fees or minimums here as well. There's also a limited time offer where you can earn 10,000 Advantage miles if you fund this account within 15 days of opening, and if you maintain a minimum daily balance of $75,000 for 180 consecutive days out of the first 210 days following that initial account opening. Now, there's actually a whole deep dive that you can do some research about online that kind of explains how this mileage savings account is going to sometimes make more sense to use compared to a traditional high yield savings account when interest rates start to get lower. So with the Fed expected to hopefully drop rates again at some point in the future, make sure to keep this Basque Bank mileage savings account in mind if you're a points and miles person like myself and you know how to actually redeem these points and miles for good value. So because Basque Bank is paying a great rate on their traditional high yield online account, because they also offer this really cool alternative account, I'm going to go ahead and put them up into the top S tier for this video as well. Now next, I want to talk about Ally Bank, who offers an online savings account that's also been really popular for a while now, and Ally is currently paying 3.60% APY at the time of filming with no fees or minimums. They also offer a great feature called Buckets, which lets you create multiple sub-accounts for different savings goals, just like SoFi lets you do. Plus, they also offer some additional benefits that they call boosters. Now, I used to mention these boosters as something that made Ally Savings one of the best savings accounts out there, but honestly, I don't really think there's too much that's super unique about them anymore. So for example, one booster lets you set up recurring transfers, another one lets you round up Ally spending debit account transactions to the nearest dollar to then go into your savings, and then another one lets you set up surprise savings transfers from linked checking accounts. Personally, I would really only use the recurring transfers thing, which a lot of other accounts have as well these days, but because Ally is still paying a good rate and these few additional features are better than nothing, it's going to go up into the A tier. Now, if you're looking for any other high yield savings options that pretty much only pay you as high of a rate as possible with no fees but not many other features or benefits, here's a few more rapid fire accounts to consider. Valley Direct is currently offering 4.20% APY to new customers only with a $1,000 minimum opening deposit requirement, or 3.75% APY to existing customers. Forbright Bank has a growth savings account that's offering 4.25% APY, and then Bread Savings is offering 4.30% APY on their high yield savings account with a $100 minimum opening deposit requirement. Lending Club's Level Up savings account is also an option that's currently paying 4.40% APY, making it the highest interest rate in this video at the moment, which could change, but you do have to deposit $250 or more per month in order to get that rate. Otherwise, you're only going to earn 3.40% APY. All of those accounts are going to go into the A tier for me personally, just because they lack any other unique features. But again, if you're looking for the highest interest rates, regardless of features, then you could just go ahead and choose whatever rate is the highest tier in the S or the A tier, and you'll be good to go. Now, like I said before, all the accounts in this video are FDIC insured, and they're all accounts with actual banks and not any fintech companies. And that's important to mention here because there are some high yield cash management accounts out there that offer some great rates as well, but we have seen some issues in recent years with some of those accounts. The worst example of this was Yada, which caused a bunch of issues due to problems with some of the middlemen they worked with. So without getting too detailed here, even though Yada partnered with an actual bank to offer FDIC insurance, that partner bank did not fail, and it was really the middlemen that failed, and that caused some issues, so the FDIC coverage was not triggered and a bunch of people lost money. Hopefully that situation eventually gets resolved, because I know it's been going on for a while now and it's very frustrating for those people, and that's really a worst case scenario, but it's worth mentioning why I'm not including any cash management fintech accounts on this list, because people are probably going to go ahead and comment on this video about where's Wealthfront and where's Betterment. Those are actually two really good cash management accounts in my opinion that I've tried out in the past, and even companies like Vanguard offer high yield accounts. But again, these are not all from actual banks, so with any fintech accounts like that, just make sure you do your own research about what those accounts actually offer, because they might be a good fit for you as well if you just want good features and a high rate. Obviously, Obviously, there's also going to be a bunch of other high yield savings accounts out there on the market that I was not able to get to here in this video, but these are going to be a few of the more well-known ones that I wanted to go ahead and rank in the S, A, and B tiers here, plus a few bad savings accounts that I wanted to mention in the bottom D tier. So go ahead and comment down below if I missed anything good, because I'm always curious and it always helps other people out to see that stuff. As always though, thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.